All right, everybody, welcome back to Bereans Corner Radio. It's another good day to be in the Word of God. Open your Bible to Exodus chapter 26. The title of today's lesson is Curtains of Linen. Exodus 26, and let's read.
Exodus 26. Make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of finely twisted linen and blue, purple and scarlet yarn, with cherubim worked into them by a skilled craftsman. All the curtains are to be the same size, 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together and do the same with the other 5. Make loops of blue material along the edge of the end curtain in one set, and do the same with the end curtain in the other set. Make 50 loops on one curtain and 50 loops on the other curtain of the other set, with the loops opposite each other. Then make 50 gold clasps, and use them to fasten the curtains together so that the tabernacle is a unit. Make curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle, 11 altogether. All 11 curtains are to be the same size, 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together into one set and the other 6 into another set. Fold the 6th curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops along the edge of the end curtain in one set and also along the edge of the end curtain in the other set. Then make 50 bronze clasps and put them in the loops to fasten the tent together as a unit. As for the additional length of the tent curtains, the half curtain that is left over is to hang down at the rear of the tabernacle. The tent curtains will be a cubit longer on both sides. What is left will hang over the sides of the tabernacle so as to cover it. Make for the tent a covering of ram skins, dyed red, and over that a covering of hides of sea cows. Make upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame is to be 10 cubits long, and a cubit and a half wide, with 2 projections set parallel to each other. Make all the frames of the tabernacle in this way. Make 20 frames for the south side of the tabernacle, and make 40 silver bases to go under them, 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each projection. For the other side, the north side of the tabernacle, make 20 frames and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Make 6 frames for the far end, that is, the west end of the tabernacle, and make 2 frames for the corners at the far end. At these 2 corners they must be double from the bottom all the way to the top, and fitted into a single ring. Both shall be like that. So there will be 8 frames and 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Also make crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, 5 for those on the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west, at the far end of the tabernacle. The center crossbar is to extend from end to end at the middle of the frames. Overlay the frames with gold and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Also overlay the crossbars with gold. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown you on the mountain. Make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen, with cherubim worked into it by a skilled craftsman. Hang it with gold hooks on 4 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold and standing on 4 silver bases. Hang the curtain from the clasps and place the ark of the testimony behind the curtain. The curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Put the atonement cover on the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Place the table outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle and put the lampstand opposite it on the south side. For the entrance to the tent make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. Make gold hooks for this curtain and 5 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and cast 5 bronze bases for them.
All right, now, the last time we were together, we saw God give Moses specific commands on some of the furnishings he wanted in his tabernacle. Remember, this is not a project where the Lord said, build it as you see fit, but build it to the exact specs that I am giving you. First, we will look at the linen curtains. Look at verses 1 through 6. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twisted linen, blue and purple and scarlet material. You shall make them with cherubim, the work of a skillful workman. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains shall have the same measurements. 5 curtains shall be joined to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be joined to one another. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtains in the first set. And likewise, you shall make them on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in the second set. You shall make 50 loops in the one curtain, and you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is in the second set. The loops shall be opposite each other. And you shall make 50 clasps of gold and join the curtains to one another with the clasps, that the tabernacle may be a unit. Now, there are 8 details God gives about these curtains. Number 1, 10 curtains of fine twisted linen were to be made. We saw that in verse 1. Number 2, the twisted linen was to be entwined with blue, purple, and scarlet material. He also said that in verse 1. Number 3, cherubim were to be embroidered in the linen. That was also in verse 1. Number 4, each curtain was to be 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. We saw that in verse 2. Number 5, 2 sets of 5 curtains were to be joined together. We saw that in verse 3. Number 6, there were to be loops of blue on the edge of the joined curtains. We saw that in verse 4. Number 7, each of the 10 set were to have 50 loops. We saw that in verse 5. Number 8, 50 clasps of gold were to join the curtains together. Now we saw that in verse 6. Now, next we will look at the curtains of goat's hair. We see this in verses 7 through 14. Then you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains in all. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall have the same measurements. You shall join 5 curtains by themselves, the other 6 curtains by themselves, and you shall double over the 6th curtain at the front of the tent. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in the first set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in the second set. You shall make 50 clasps of bronze, and you shall put the clasps into the loops and join the tent together, that it may be a unit. The overlapping part that is left over in the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that is left over, shall lap over the back of the tabernacle. The cubic on one side and the cubic on the other of what is left over in the length of the curtains of the tent shall lap over the sides of the tabernacle on one side and on the other to cover it. You shall make a covering for the tent of ram skin dyed red, and a covering of porpoise skin above. Now, there are 10 details God gives about the goat hair curtains that we just read. Number 1, it shall be made with 11 curtains. We saw that in verse 7. Number 2, each curtain shall be 45 feet long. We saw that in verse 8. Number 3, the curtain shall be 6 feet wide. We saw that in verse 8. Number 4, 5 curtains shall be joined together. Saw that in verse 9. Number 5, 6 curtains shall be joined together. Saw that in verse 9. Number 6, each set of curtains shall contain 50 loops. We saw that in verse 10. Number 7, 50 bronze clasps are used to join the curtains together. We saw that in verse 11. Number 8, the overlapping part shall lap over the tabernacle back. We saw that in verses 12 to 13. Number 9, there shall be an overlapping length of 18 inches to dangle over the sides of the tabernacle. We saw that in verse 13. Number 10, the ram skin shall be dyed red and have a covering of porpoise skin. We saw that in verse 14. Now, the next item on the list are boards and sockets. We see this in verses 15 through 30. Then you shall make the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing upright. 10 cubits shall be the length of each board, and 1.5 cubits the width of each board. There shall be 2 tenons for each board, fitted to one another. Thus you shall do for all the boards of the tabernacle. You shall make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side. You shall make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, 20 boards. 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. For the rear of the tabernacle to the west, you shall make 6 boards. You shall make 2 boards for the corners of the tabernacle at the rear. They shall be double beneath, and together they shall be complete to its tops. To its top to the first ring. Thus it shall be with both. They shall form the 2 corners. There shall be 8 boards with their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. Then you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of one side of the tabernacle, 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 boards of the side of the tabernacle for the rear side to the west. The middle bar in the center of the board shall pass through from end to end. You shall overlay the boards with gold and make their rings of gold as holders for the bars. And you shall overlay the bars with gold. Then you shall erect the tabernacle according to its plan, which you have been shown in the mountain. Okay. Now, there are 19 details that I would like to point out about these boards. Number 1. The boards are to be made of acacia wood. We saw that in verse 15. Number 2, the tabernacle boards were to stand upright, also in verse 15. Number 3, each board is to be 15 feet long. We saw that in verse 16. Number 4, the boards are to be 1.5 cubits or 2.25 feet wide. That was also in verse 16. Number 5, each board was to have 2 tenons that fit all the boards together. We saw that in verse 17. Number 6, the boards were to be made. We saw that in verse 18. Number 7, there were to be 20 boards for the south side of the tabernacle. That was also in verse 18. In verse 19, we saw number 8, there were to be 40 sockets of silver under each of the 20 boards, and each board was to have 2 sockets. Number 9, there were 20 boards for the north side of the tabernacle. Saw that in verse 20. Number 10, there were to be 40 silver sockets under each of the 20 boards for 2 for each, and with 2 for each board. We saw that in verse 21. Number 11, there were 6 boards for the rear frame on the west side of the tabernacle. Saw that in verse 22. Number 12, 2 boards were needed for reinforcement on the corners at the rear of the tabernacle. Saw that in verses 23 and 24. Number 13, there were a total of 8 boards for the rear frame that sat into 16 sockets of silver. We saw that in verse 25. Number 14, there were 15 crossbars made from acacia wood. Saw that in verses 26 through 27. Number 15, there was to be a middle bar at the center of the tent that passed through from end to end. Saw that in verse 28. Number 16, the boards were to be overlaid with gold. We saw that in verse 29. Number 17, the rings into which the bars fit are to be made of gold. We also saw that in verse 29. Number 18, the bars are to be overlaid with gold. We also saw that in verse 29. And number 19, the tabernacle was to be erected according to what God showed Moses on the mountain. We saw that in verse 30. Okay, now we will look at 2 veils, right? These 2 veils were used to close off 2 important rooms. Now, one was the Holy of Holies, which was in the back, and the other was the holy place, which was in the front. First, let's look at the inner veil. Let's look at verses 31 through 35 to talk about the inner veil. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim, the work of a skillful workman. You shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, their hooks also being of gold on 4 sockets of silver. You shall hang up the veil under the clasps and shall bring in the ark of the testimony there within the veil, and the veil shall serve for you as a partition between the holy place and the holy of holies. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the Holy of Holies. You shall set the table outside the veil and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. And you shall put the table on the north side. Now, there are 9 features that I want to look at for the inner veil. Number 1, the inner veil was to be made with material of specific colors. And number 2, it was to be made with cherubim. These were both in verse 31. Let's look at that again. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim. Number 3, it was to be hung on 4 pillars. Number 4, the veil was to have hooks made of gold in verse 32. Number 3 was also in verse 32. Number 5, the 4 pillars were to be put in 4 sockets of silver. That was also in verse 32. Let's look at that again. You shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, their hooks also being of gold on 4 sockets of silver. Number 6, it was to be hung under the clasp. We saw that in verse 33. Number 7, the inner veil was to be a partition between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. We see that in verse 33. You shall hang up the veil under the clasp and shall bring in the ark of the testimony there within the veil, and the veil shall serve for you as a partition between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. Number 8, the mercy seat was to be set on the inner chamber on the ark of the testimony. We saw that in verse 34. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the Holy of Holies. Number 8, the mercy seat was to sit on the inner chamber on the ark of the testimony. We saw that in verse 34. Number 9, the table or the lampstand were not to be in the inner chamber. Look at verse 35 again. You shall set the table outside the veil and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle on the south side. Now we will look at the outer veil. Let's look at verses 36 and 37. You shall make a screen for the doorway of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine twisted linen, the work of a weaver. You shall make 5 pillars of acacia for the screen and overlay them with gold, their hooks also being of gold. And you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. Now, there are 5 features we would like to look at pertaining to the outer veil. Number 1, the outer veil served as a screen for the doorway of the tent. Number 2, the material of the outer veil was to be made of blue, purple, and scarlet material. We see that in verse 36. Matter of fact, let's look at that again. You shall make a screen for the doorway of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet. Number 3, the outer veil was to be connected to 5 pillars overlaid with gold. We saw that in verse 37. Number 4, the outer veil is to be connected to gold hooks. That was also in verse 37. And number 5, the outer veil was connected to 5 pillars and 5 bronze sockets. Also in verse 37. We'll look at that one more time. You shall make 5 pillars of acacia for the screen and overlay them with gold, their hooks also being of gold, and you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. That brings us to the end of Exodus chapter 26. That's all for now. God bless.